Hey, today I'm talking about 3 Malaysian films from the aughts, all written and directed by Yasmin Ahmad. And the names of those 3 films I'm not going to say because they're in Malaysian and I just don't want to butcher them. But they are in the title of the video, so you could just look there to see. First up is Talentime. This is from 2009, and the basic premise is there is a high school talent show with a $1,000 prize, and so it's basically about a number of the contestants within the contest, but also it has to do with some of the judges and also some of the families of the contestants slash one of the boys who helps pick up some of the contestants. All of these films are very slice of life-y. This one has the most plot structure to it though, with the nature of the talent show, which is probably what led to me liking it the best. But this is also one of her last films. She sadly passed away in 2009 at the age of 54. Brain aneurysm. But it's really clear that she has grown as a filmmaker and has gotten more talented. I honestly believe that had she not passed away, she was on her way to getting at least an Oscar nomination at some point. But yeah, no, I like this film a lot. I think the story was very interesting. I liked a lot of the characters. It was actually really easy to follow. There'll be more of an issue with the other ones. Though there was one character introduction who I'm just who is this lady? Because it was just a middle-aged woman in a hospital bed and there's no one else clearly related to her when we first see her. But then the third time we see her, one of the other characters finally pops up and I'm like, oh, you're that person's mom. Okay, that makes sense. So that was the only thing I was confused on in this movie. But honestly, that wasn't a big deal at all. Yeah, no, it was just an all-around really good, solid, cute little movie. I enjoy this movie a lot. Because it's a talent show, there's also lots of performances and stuff, and all those performances are really good. If you're gonna check out just one of these, I would definitely recommend this one. It's a really good, really interesting time. Next up is... I'm not going to say the name. The basic premise is it follows this little 10-year-old girl named Orchid. She's a big tomboy. She doesn't really like the other girls or girlier things. It's summertime and she's kind of at a loss. She doesn't have a lot of friends. But there's a new boy in town. His name is the name of the movie. And maybe they get along pretty well. This one's definitely more of a slice of life film. It's just kind of this one summer vacation. It definitely follows more than just Orchid and her friend. We deal with their parents and their siblings and some other stuff that's going on. I mostly just cared for their story. The other ones were fine, but I don't know, it was just a nice, fun little slice of life film. Just it's so cool to see just casual life stuff from a completely different culture. There's a game that the kids play that's kind of in a grid with a bunch of sticks, and I'm this is so interesting. So I don't know, it's just a fun, fascinating little film. I, again, really like this movie and would totally recommend it again. I think what brought it down a little bit from the other one is just getting a little confused about all of the other characters. They're not the 2 main ones, though they're all kind of equally main. And then also, at one point, they were oh, we only have 1 week left of summer, so I'm oh, we must be within the last 20 minutes or so of the movie. But no, we still had a lot of movie left. So I kept just thinking, oh, the end of the movie's right around the corner, but it wasn't, and so that kind of got... Even with that though, I still really enjoyed it and would definitely recommend it. It's a fun little slice of life film from Malaysia. And lastly is this one. I think it means I'm losing my eyesight or something like that. This one I had the most trouble following. There's just a lot of characters and they all seem kind of similar. And on top of that, even though this one came first, I watched it after I watched the last one, where Orchid was definitely a leading character. And she's also in this one, even though this one takes place later. I think both the films were autobiographical. So I just kind of assumed that Orchid was going to be a main character in this one, but she wasn't. She was barely in the movie. Also, what I think didn't help this movie is that there's a lot of characters. And I was trying to get all the faces and names down, but it was taking me forever. And what didn't help that is that they did this interesting thing of whenever there were people in cars, the camera would never be in the car. So they're on a long car ride or they're just parked in the middle of the street. The camera is outside the car just watching that car. And it made for a very interesting filmmaking, but I struggled because I was still trying to get names and faces down. So I'm okay, okay, I know these names are associated to this storyline, but which are the faces? Who is this one? So like, it could just be a me thing of like not being able to memorize their faces faster, but it was still a little rough. This one did have a lot of characters too. So yeah, it's fine. I still like this movie. It was just really hard for me to follow. Also, I think another thing that didn't help were the subtitles, because with all three of the films, they actually did this thing where there were English subtitles, and then there was a second set of subtitles, not in English, but it wasn't a feature on Netflix, so I couldn't like shut it off. And for the other two, they were very sporadic when they'd come up, but for this one, it was all the time, so that was distracting in and of itself. But then also there were times where the English titles would just stop, and it was just the other subtitles, so like I didn't know what was happening. I could more or less glean what was happening, but it was still just like, I want the subtitles. I can't speak Malay. So maybe with better subtitles that would help, but I don't know. So yeah, I did like this film, but I wouldn't really recommend it. I definitely recommend the other two. This one I think is a fine one to skip. Alrighty, now for today's rankings. First up, we got Talentime sitting at number 43 in the really like section. And then after that is the M1, sitting at number 53, also in the really liked category. And then bringing up the rear is the R1, sitting at number 111 in the liked category. And this is out of a total of 168 old movies so far this year.